Giulia Moretti had made exactly 3 good decisions in her 31 years. Opening her yoga studio at 26. Adopting Bianco and Nero from the shelter, instead of buying purebred cats her mother wanted her to get. And saying yes when Matteo Vitale asked if she liked homemade pasta. Standing outside a 3-story brownstone in Bay Ridge while Matteo's hand rested casually on her lower back might not be the 4th. "Relax," Matteo said, flashing that easy smile that had gotten her into this situation. "They're going to love you." "You said that about your aunt at the restaurant. She asked if I was trying to steal the silverware." "Zia Teresa asks everyone that. It's how she shows affection." He squeezed her waist gently. "Besides, you handled it perfectly. Very dignified." I panic laughed for 30 seconds and knocked over my water. "See? Charming." Giulia looked up at the house. Every window glowed warm yellow, and she could hear voices inside, loud and overlapping in that particular way large families had. She'd grown up an only child in a quiet apartment in Astoria. This felt like walking into a different species habitat. "How many people are in there?" "Sunday dinner? Maybe 15, 20 if Nonna's sister came." "Matteo, you'll be fine. Just smile. Eat whatever Mama puts in front of you. And do not, under any circumstances, say you're full before she offers seconds. This feels like a trap. It's called Italian hospitality." He grinned, pulling her closer. "Come on. I promise I'll protect you from the ants." The door opened before they reached it. A woman in her late 60s stood in the doorway, aproned and flour-dusted, with the kind of face that could shift from warm to terrifying in seconds. Her eyes went to Giulia, then to Matteo, then back to Giulia with an assessment that felt like an X-ray. "Matteo," she said, "you're late." "Mama, this is Giulia. Giulia, my mother, Carmela." "Mrs. Vitale." Giulia extended her hand. "Thank you so much for having me." Carmela ignored the hand and pulled her into a hug that smelled like tomato sauce and lavender. "Giulia, pretty name. You're the yoga teacher." "Yes, ma'am." "You teach my son?" "No. We met at the cafe next to my studio." "Ah." Carmela released her, patting her cheek. "Well, come in. Dinner's almost ready, and if you let it get cold, I'll know." She disappeared back into the house, leaving Giulia slightly dazed. "That went well," Matteo said. "How could you tell?" "She didn't ask about your family tree or your medical history. That's a good sign." The house was exactly what Giulia expected, and nothing like she'd imagined. The furniture was expensive but comfortable, walls covered in family photos spanning decades. A massive dining table dominated the front room, already set with enough plates to feed a small army. Voices came from the kitchen, talking over each other in rapid Italian and English. Matteo led her through introductions that blurred together. Uncle Giovanni, Aunt Francesca, cousins whose names she immediately forgot, Lucia holding a toddler who screamed with joy the moment he saw Matteo. "This is my sister," Matteo said as Lucia passed the child to her husband and hugged Giulia. "Finally," Lucia said. "Another woman under 40. I was drowning in testosterone and unsolicited advice." "Lucia teaches high school," Matteo explained. "English. And I'm very good at grading people." Lucia smiled. "You seem nervous. Don't be. They're loud, but they're harmless." A man's voice boomed from the kitchen. "Matteo, get in here." "That's Papa," Matteo said. "Come on." Salvatore Vitale stood at the head of the kitchen, holding a wine bottle and arguing with someone about proper decanting technique. He was shorter than Giulia expected, but carried himself like he owned the world. When he saw her, he stopped mid-sentence. "This is her?" He looked at Matteo. "The yoga teacher." "Yes, sir, Giulia Moretti." Salvatore studied her with dark eyes that missed nothing. Then he smiled, warm and genuine. "Welcome to our home. You drink wine?" "Yes, thank you." "Good. Matteo, get her a glass. Not the cheap stuff." The kitchen was controlled chaos. Carmela directed traffic like a general, sending people to carry dishes to the dining room while simultaneously stirring 3 pots and shouting corrections in Italian. Julia found herself holding a basket of bread, following Lucia, feeling very much like she'd been absorbed into a system she didn't understand. "Is it always like this?" she asked. "This is calm," Lucia said. "Wait until someone brings up politics." They were arranging bread on the table when Julia heard it. The front door opening, a male voice calling out in Italian, Carmela's response from the kitchen. "Domenico!" Lucia brightened. "I didn't think he was coming." "Who's Domenico?" "Matteo's older brother. He usually skips Sunday dinner, work." Lucia said work the way other people said natural disaster. Footsteps approached, and Julia looked up. The man who walked into the dining room made her forget how to breathe. He was taller than Matteo, broader in the shoulders, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His hair was black, shorter than his brother's, and his face was all sharp angles and control. But it was his eyes that stopped her, dark and intelligent, and currently locked directly on her with an intensity that felt physical. He stopped walking. She stopped breathing. The moment stretched, strange and charged, until Matteo appeared beside her with wine glasses. "Nico," he said, and something in his tone made Julia look away. "Didn't know you were coming." Papa asked. Domenico's voice was lower than his brother's, rougher. He moved his gaze to Matteo with visible effort. "You must be the reason." "This is Julia," Matteo said, and his hand found her waist again, possessive in a way it hadn't been before. "Julia, my brother Domenico." "Nice to meet you," she managed. Domenico's eyes cut back to her, and she felt that look in her stomach. "Likewise." He moved past them to the kitchen, and Julia released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. "You okay?" Matteo asked quietly. "Fine. Just your family is intense. You have no idea." Dinner was an experience. 20 people crammed around a table meant for 12, plates passed in every direction, 3 conversations happening at once in 2 languages. Julia sat between Matteo and Lucia, directly across from an empty chair that Domenico claimed 15 minutes late, still on his phone. "Domenico," Carmela said sharply, "phone away." He pocketed it without looking up, and Julia tried very hard not to notice the way his forearms looked when he reached for the wine. She failed. "So, Julia," Salvatore said from the head of the table, "yoga. You make good money with that?" Conversation stopped mid-sentence. "Papa," Matteo said. "What?" "I'm asking. It's a reasonable question." "It's rude," Lucia muttered. "I do well enough," Julia said carefully. "I have my own studio in Williamsburg. Small, but it's mine." "Williamsburg." Salvatore nodded. "Expensive neighborhood." "Yes, sir." "Smart girl, own your business, control your future." He raised his glass. "I respect that." The table relaxed, and conversation resumed. Julia caught Matteo's relieved smile and tried to ignore the fact that Domenico was still watching her. "You have family in the city?" Carmela asked. "My mother's in Astoria. My father passed away when I was 12. "I'm sorry, Cara." Carmela reached across to pat her hand. "What did he do?" "He was a teacher. History." "Matteo says you have cats," Lucia said, clearly redirecting. "What are their names?" "Bianco and Nero, white and black like yin and yang." Julia smiled, relaxing into safer territory. "I got them from a shelter 3 years ago. They're brothers." "2 males?" Uncle Giovanni laughed. "They must fight." "Constantly. Nero steals Bianco's food. Bianco retaliates by knocking things off counters." "Sounds like someone I know," Lucia said, looking pointedly at her brothers. Matteo grinned. Domenico's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened on his wineglass. "I'm allergic to cats," Matteo said, but I'm working on it. Antihistamines are a beautiful thing. You're going to drug yourself to date a woman with cats? Aunt Francesca shook her head. That's dedication. Or stupidity, Domenico said quietly. It was the first time he'd spoken since sitting down. Every head turned toward him. Something to say, Fratello? Matteo's tone was light, but his shoulders had tensed. Just that commitment shouldn't require medication. Good thing it's not your commitment, then. Everyone fell silent. Salvatore cleared his throat. Matteo, help your mother bring out the next course. I can help. Giulia started to stand. No. Carmela waved her down. You're a guest. Domenico, you help too. Both brothers rose and followed their mother to the kitchen. The moment they were gone, the table erupted in whispers. They're going to kill each other, Lucia muttered. Over what? Giulia asked. Lucia looked at her, then at where the brothers had disappeared, then back at Giulia with dawning understanding. Oh no. What? Nothing. But Lucia was already pulling out her phone under the table. The brothers returned with platters of ossobuco, and Giulia tried to focus on the food instead of the way Domenico moved, efficient and controlled, or the way Matteo's hand kept finding her knee under the table. Dessert was tiramisu and chaos. The toddler smeared chocolate on 3 people. Someone dropped a spoon. Uncle Giovanni started a loud debate about soccer that pulled in half the table. In the noise and movement, Giulia excused herself to find the bathroom. The upstairs hallway was blessedly quiet. She found the bathroom, took her time washing her hands, and gave herself a stern look in the mirror. You're being insane, she told her reflection. Matteo is lovely. He's interested. He's uncomplicated. Stop looking at his brother like that. Her reflection looked unconvinced. She was halfway down the hall when a door opened, and Domenico emerged from what looked like an office. They both stopped. Sorry, she said. I was just... Bathroom's that way. He gestured behind her. Right. Yes, I know. I was heading back. He nodded, but didn't move. Neither did she. Your family is wonderful, she said, because the silence felt too heavy. They're loud. In a good way. Is there a good way to be loud? I think so. It's nice. Warm. I grew up in a very quiet house. Something shifted in his expression. So, did Matteo tell you what the family business actually is? He said restaurants, wine importing. That's part of it. Domenico moved closer, and the hallway felt smaller. There's more he should probably mention before this goes further. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest. My brother should have been. Maybe he thought it wasn't relevant yet. It's always relevant. He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. You seem smart, Giulia. Grounded. You should know what you're walking into. And what am I walking into? His eyes held hers. Complications. I'm not afraid of complicated. You should be. But he didn't step back, and neither did she. Footsteps on the stairs broke the moment. Matteo appeared, looking between them with an expression Giulia couldn't read. Everything okay? Fine, Domenico said. Just talking. He walked past his brother without another word, leaving Giulia feeling like she'd just survived something. What did he say to you? Matteo asked quietly. Nothing. Just, conversation. Nico doesn't do small talk. Matteo took her hand. Come on, they're serving coffee. Back at the table, Carmela was distributing tiny cups of espresso, while arguing with Salvatore about something in rapid Italian. Giulia sat, accepted her coffee, and tried to ignore the fact that Domenico had moved to stand by the window, phone in hand, separate from everyone. He's always like that, Lucia said, following her gaze. Work. It consumes him. What does he do exactly? Security consulting. He handles, let's say, delicate situations for important people. Travels constantly. Lucia stirred sugar into her coffee. There was someone a few years ago, Sarah. It didn't work out. I don't think he's let anyone close since. Julia looked at Domenico again. He stood silhouetted against the window, and she felt an unexpected ache in her chest. Julia, Matteo said, pulling her attention back. Ready to go? She made her rounds saying goodbye, receiving cheek kisses and invitations to next Sunday. When she reached Salvatore, he pulled her aside. You're good for Matteo, he said quietly. He's lighter since he met you. Thank you, sir. Call me Sal. He squeezed her shoulder. And Julia, my sons are very different men. Choose wisely. The words felt weighted, but before she could respond, Matteo was there. Outside, the evening air felt like relief. That went really well, Matteo said, walking her to his car. They loved you. Your mother is intimidating. She's a teddy bear. He opened her door. Next Sunday? I'd like that. On the drive home, Matteo held her hand and talked about his week, about the restaurant opening, about his mother already asking when he'd bring her back. Julia smiled and responded and tried not to think about dark eyes and the word complications. Her apartment felt especially quiet. Bianco and Nero greeted her with indignant meows, demanding to know why she'd abandoned them. I met someone's family, she told them, opening food cans. A lot of someone's. Nero ignored her for food. Bianco rubbed against her legs, purring. Matteo's wonderful. Really. Funny, sweet. His family adores him. She sat on the floor, letting Bianco climb into her lap. So why can't I stop thinking about his brother? Her phone buzzed. Matteo. Had an amazing time. You were perfect. Sleep well, Bella. She smiled, typed back. You too. Thank you for tonight. Another buzz. Unknown number. This is Domenico. Got your number from Lucia. We should talk. Julia stared at the message. Another came. About what I said earlier. I was out of line. She typed, It's fine, I understand. His response was immediate. Do you? She didn't answer. 3 days later, Julia was teaching a morning vinyasa class when the studio door opened and Domenico Vitale walked in. She almost fell out of Warrior 2. Her students continued flowing through poses while she stood frozen, watching him approach. He wore workout clothes, gym bag over his shoulder, looking completely out of place among the women in designer leggings. I'd like to join the class, he said quietly. You do yoga? I'm thinking about starting, for stress. His expression was serious. Unless you're too uncomfortable teaching me. Every rational thought said this was a bad idea. Every instinct said to turn him away. Take a mat from the closet, she heard herself say. We're 20 minutes in, so just follow along. He nodded and moved to the back. Julia tried to focus on her students. She really did. But she was acutely aware of Domenico in the corner, moving through poses with surprising grace. He watched her constantly, and every time their eyes met, something electric passed between them. After class, her students filed out while Domenico stayed behind, rolling up his mat. You're not a beginner, Julia said. Did I say I was? You implied it. I said I was thinking about starting. I didn't say I hadn't done it before. He returned the mat. I did yoga in the military. It's been a while. Why are you really here, Domenico? He turned to face her. Because I can't stop thinking about you. I'm seeing your brother. I know. This is exactly the kind of complication you warned me about. I know that too. So, what are you doing? He moved closer. Something incredibly stupid. We can't... I know. But he didn't step back. Tell me you don't feel this. What I feel doesn't matter. Matteo is my brother. I know. His voice dropped. But Julia, I've spent 3 days trying to convince myself that looking at you didn't feel like getting hit in the chest. That watching Matteo touch you didn't make me want to break something. Domenico, you deserve to know the truth before this goes any further. Because once you're in, once you're part of this family, everything gets complicated. You keep using that word. Because it's the only one that fits. He raised his hand like he might touch her face, then let it drop. I should go. He was at the door when she spoke. Wait, he stopped. I do feel it, she said quietly. Whatever this is. I felt it the second you walked into that dining room. Domenico turned slowly. Giulia. But I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be the thing that comes between you and your brother. I saw how everyone watches you two, the tension. Whatever rivalry you have, I won't make it worse. It's not... He stopped, jaw tight. You're right. You shouldn't be involved in our history. So we agree. This doesn't happen. Yes. Neither of them moved. You should probably leave, Giulia said. I should. He didn't. The door burst open, and Matteo walked in holding coffee and pastries. Nico? His smile faltered. What are you doing here? Yoga class, Domenico said smoothly. Trying to manage stress. Since when do you do yoga? Since I decided I needed to relax. Domenico moved toward the door. Giulia's a good teacher. See you Sunday? Matteo asked him. Maybe. Domenico left without looking at Giulia again. Matteo watched him go, frowning. That was weird. Was it? Nico doesn't take classes. He barely sleeps. Matteo shook his head. Never mind. I brought breakfast. They sat on the studio floor eating pastries, and Matteo talked about his week. Giulia listened, and tried not to think about the fact that she'd just lied to him. That night, her phone buzzed. Domenico. I meant what I said. We can't do this. She stared at the message before responding. I know. His reply came minutes later. Doesn't make it easier. She turned off her phone without answering. The next Sunday, Matteo invited her to dinner again. Giulia considered saying no, but couldn't explain why, without revealing everything. So she went, armed with wine and determination. Domenico was already there. He stood in the kitchen with Salvatore, discussing something in low tones that stopped when Giulia walked in. His eyes found hers, held for a beat too long, then moved to Matteo's hand on her waist. Giulia, Salvatore greeted her. Good to see you. We're debating business strategy. Boring stuff. Dinner was louder than last week. A baby screamed through antipasti. Uncle Giovanni argued with Aunt Francesca. Lucia's husband spilled wine. Giulia sat between Matteo and Carmela, directly across from Domenico, who barely spoke. You okay, Figlio? Carmela asked him. Fine, Mama. Just work. Always work with you. She looked at Giulia, then back at her son. You need to learn to live, not just survive. After dinner, Matteo got pulled into a conversation about the restaurant business. Giulia excused herself and found herself alone in the upstairs hallway. The office door was cracked open. She shouldn't look. She should go back downstairs. She looked. Domenico sat at the desk, head in his hands. Are you okay? The words escaped before she could stop them. He looked up, surprised. I thought you were downstairs. Are you okay? You look exhausted. I haven't slept well. He leaned back. There's a situation brewing. Business complications. Can I help? Not unless you can make rival families disappear. He said it like a joke, but his eyes were serious. Giulia stepped into the office. What kind of complications? The kind where people push boundaries, test resolve. The Rossi family thinks we're weak right now. They're wrong, but proving it requires careful strategy. That sounds dangerous. It can be, but it's managed. He stood. This is why I stay away from this. From what? From you. From anything that could be used as leverage. His voice softened. In my world, the people you care about become targets. I'm not scared. You should be. They stood there, the office dim, and Julia saw past the control to the loneliness underneath. Domenico, she started. Don't. He closed his eyes. Please don't be kind to me right now. I'm barely holding on as it is. What does that mean? It means my brother has something I want, and I'm trying to be the better man. But you standing here is making that incredibly difficult. Julia? Matteo's voice came from downstairs. They both froze. Go, Domenico said quietly. He's waiting. She should. She absolutely should. This isn't over, she said instead. It has to be. That's not what I asked. Julia left, but she felt his eyes follow her down the hall. Matteo drove her home and kissed her goodnight. It was sweet, warm, completely appropriate. When he pulled back, he was smiling. I'm really glad I met you, he said. Me too. See you Wednesday? That jazz place I mentioned? Sounds perfect. He left, and Julia went inside to find Nero sitting in the window and Bianco knocking pens off her desk. I'm in trouble, she told them. Nero yawned. Bianco knocked off another pen. Her phone buzzed. Matteo. Made it home. You're amazing. Before she could respond, another message. Domenico. You're right. It's not over. Julia sat on her couch, staring at both messages, her heart pounding. She didn't respond to either. 2 weeks passed. Matteo took her to dinner, brought lunch to her studio, integrated her into his life with easy affection. Domenico appeared at random moments, always with an excuse, always leaving her breathless. At the third Sunday dinner, Carmela cornered her in the kitchen. You're playing with fire, Bambina. Julia froze. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Carmela's voice was gentle but firm. I see how you look at Domenico, how he looks at you, and I see my Matteo, hopeful and happy, not seeing what's right in front of him. I would never hurt him. You already are. Carmela touched her cheek. I'm not angry, but you need to choose. Stringing them both along, even unintentionally, will destroy this family. I care about Matteo. I know. But do you love him? Julia couldn't answer. That's what I thought. Carmela returned to stirring sauce. Figure it out soon, Cara, before someone gets hurt worse than a broken heart. That night, Julia couldn't sleep. She paced her apartment, Bianco and Nero watching her with judgmental cat eyes. At midnight, there was a knock on her door. Domenico stood in the hallway, looking as exhausted as she felt. I can't do this anymore, he said without preamble. I can't watch him with you. I can't sit at that table and pretend. I can't. He stopped. Tell me to leave. Tell me you feel nothing, and I'll go. I'll let Matteo have this. I can't tell you that. Why not? Because it would be a lie. Domenico crossed the threshold, and then his hands were in her hair, and his mouth was on hers, and nothing else mattered. The kiss was desperate, consuming, weeks of tension breaking all at once. Julia gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, and he made a sound low in his throat that sent heat through her entire body. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back. Oh God, Julia whispered. What did we just do? Something I've wanted since the moment I saw you. Domenico rested his forehead against hers. And something that changes everything. Matteo. I know. He pulled back. I know. But Julia, I can't pretend anymore. And you need to decide what you want. Because this, us, it's real. And it's not going away. He left before she could respond. Giulia sank to the floor, her lips still tingling, her heart racing. Bianco climbed into her lap. Nero knocked over a plant. The next morning, she called Matteo. "Can you come over?" Her voice was steady despite the shaking in her hands. "We need to talk." The drive to her apartment felt like it took hours. When Matteo arrived, he took one look at her face and knew. "It's Nico, isn't it?" He sat heavily on her couch. "I'm so sorry." "How long?" "We kissed last night, but the feelings have been there since the first dinner." Matteo was quiet for a long time. "I saw it. The way you looked at each other. I told myself I was being paranoid. I never meant to hurt you. I know. That makes it worse." He looked at her. "My whole life, anything I wanted, Nico wanted more. Anything I had, he took better care of. I thought maybe this time, this one time, I'd found something that was just mine." "Matteo. Does he feel the same?" "Yes." Matteo laughed bitterly. "Of course he does. Nico doesn't do anything halfway." He stood. "I need to go." "I understand." At the door, he stopped. "Be careful with him, Giulia. He pushes people away. It's what he does. And when you're in deep enough that it hurts, he'll convince himself you're better off without him. I'll remember that." "Yeah." He opened the door. "Goodbye, Giulia." When he left, she called Domenico. "Matteo knows," she said when he answered. Silence. Then, "How is he?" "Hurt, angry. He has every right to be. This is my fault. It's both our faults. Or neither. I don't know anymore." She took a breath. "What happens now?" "Now we deal with the fallout. And Giulia, it's going to be bad." He was right. Lucia called an hour later. Matteo told Mama. "Oh God." "She's upset. Not at you exactly, but at the situation. She said Domenico's not welcome at Sunday dinner until this is sorted. She can't do that to him. She's Carmela Vitale. She can do whatever she wants." Lucia paused. "But Giulia, between you and me, I think this needed to happen. They've been competing their whole lives. Maybe it's time someone chose Domenico first." Days passed in silence. Giulia threw herself into work, teaching back-to-back classes, reorganizing the studio, anything to avoid thinking about the fact that Domenico hadn't called. When she finally broke down and texted him, his responses were brief. 1 or 2 words. Nothing that gave her anything to hold on to. "I'm handling some things. Need time. I'll call soon." But he didn't call. By day 5, Giulia was alternating between angry and heartbroken. She'd chosen him, blown up her relationship with Matteo, made herself vulnerable, and he'd disappeared. "He's an idiot," Lucia said when she stopped by the studio. "But he's not doing this to hurt you. He's doing it because he's convinced himself you're better off. That's not his decision to make." "I know, but Domenico's spent his whole life making decisions for other people's own good. It's how he thinks love works. That's not love, that's control." "Welcome to dating a Vitale man." Lucia sat on the floor. "Look, Matteo's hurt, but he's processing. He's actually been on 2 dates with Sofia already. But Domenico? He's drowning in guilt. Mama tried talking to him. He barely said 10 words. So what do I do? You decide if you can handle this. Because if you stay with Domenico, this won't be the last time he pulls away to protect you. He'll do it every time he thinks you're in danger, every time he thinks he's not good enough, every time the guilt gets too heavy. Giulia pressed her hands to her face. I don't know if I can do this. Then walk away now, before it gets harder. But walking away felt impossible. A week after Matteo found out, Giulia was locking up the studio late when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, parked across the street. It had been there when she arrived that morning. Still there now. Her hands shook as she locked the door. The car didn't move. Julia walked quickly toward the subway, checking over her shoulder every few steps. The car followed slowly, staying a block behind. She pulled out her phone and called Domenico. He answered on the first ring. "Julia? There's a car following me." Her voice shook. "Black sedan. It's been outside the studio all day, and now it's behind me." "Where are you?" "Walking to the subway, Bedford Avenue." "Stop walking. Go into the nearest business with people. Stay there. I'm 10 minutes away." "Domenico, do it now." She ducked into a crowded coffee shop, finding a seat by the window where she could watch the street. The car pulled up to the curb and stopped. Julia's heart pounded. She ordered tea she didn't want, hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the cup. 8 minutes later, Domenico's car pulled up. He was out and scanning the street before the engine stopped. The black sedan pulled away quickly, disappearing around the corner. Domenico entered the coffee shop, found her immediately, and pulled her into his arms without a word. "I'm sorry," he said into her hair. "I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I was afraid of." "What's happening?" "Not here." He pulled back, checking the street again. "Come on, we need to talk somewhere safe." They ended up at his penthouse, Julia's hands still shaking as she sat on his couch. "The Rossi family," Domenico explained, pacing. "They're a rival organization, smaller than us, trying to expand into territory we control. They've been pushing boundaries for months, testing how far they can go." "What do they want?" "Access to our distribution network, specifically our shipping routes and warehouse space. It's worth millions." He stopped pacing. "I've been refusing. It's a matter of principle. We don't give ground to families that try to muscle in. And now they're following me to what? Scare you? To send a message. That they know about you. That they can reach you if they want to." His jaw tightened. "This is why I pulled away. I knew they were escalating. I thought if I created distance between us, they'd see you as irrelevant. But they don't. No. Because Matteo told the family about us. And in our world, word travels. The Rossi family did their research." He sat beside her. "Julia, I need to handle this. And the way I handle it, you might not like." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm going to meet with them, make a deal that ends this." He took her hands. "I'm going to give them limited access to one warehouse. In exchange, they sign a formal peace agreement that includes specific language protecting you." "You're negotiating over me?" "I'm making sure they understand that you're untouchable. In our world, there are rules. Family is sacred. Once you're recognized as family, hurting you means all-out war. Most organizations won't risk that." "Most? The Rossi family will honor it. They're aggressive, but they're not stupid. They want business, not bloodshed." Julia processed this. "And if they don't honor it, then I make them regret it." His voice was cold in a way she'd never heard. "But that won't happen, because I'm going to make the stakes very, very clear." "When?" "Tomorrow. I'm meeting with their leadership. Papa and 2 of our senior people will be there. It's formal, binding." He touched her face. "I need you to trust me." "I do. But Domenico, you can't keep pulling away every time something dangerous happens. If we're going to do this, really do this, you need to let me in, not push me away to protect me." "I know. You're right." He pulled her close. "I was so focused on keeping you safe that I didn't realize I was hurting you worse than any external threat could. Promise me, no more disappearing. I promise." They sat like that for a long time, holding each other while the city glittered below. "Stay tonight," Domenico said. "I don't want you alone until this is settled." Julia stayed. The next morning, she woke in his guest room to find him already gone. A note on the kitchen counter. Meeting at 10. I'll call you after. Don't leave the apartment. The hours crawled. Julia tried to work on her laptop, attempted yoga, gave up on both. By noon, she was pacing. At 12:43, her phone rang. It's done, Domenico said, and she heard the exhaustion in his voice. Agreement signed. You're officially recognized as under Vitale family protection. The Rossi situation is resolved. Just like that? Not just like that. It took 3 hours of negotiation and my father making some very pointed threats. But yes, it's over. And they'll actually honor it? They will. Because the alternative is war they can't win, and they know it. He paused. Can I see you tonight? Yes. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something nice. Why? Because I'm taking you to dinner. A real date. The kind where I don't have to pretend we're not together. Where I can hold your hand and kiss you if I want to. And where everyone who sees us knows exactly what you mean to me. Julia smiled. I'd like that. That night, Domenico took her to a restaurant in Little Italy, the kind of place with white tablecloths and waiters who knew him by name. They were shown to a private corner table, and Julia noticed the way people watched them, curiosity and assessment in their eyes. They're wondering who you are, Domenico said quietly. Does that happen often? People watching you? In certain circles, yes. The restaurant business is legitimate, but everyone knows there's more to the family. People pay attention. And now they're paying attention to me. Now they're paying attention to us. He took her hand across the table. Is that okay? Julia thought about it. The attention, the implications, the way this single dinner would ripple through whatever networks the Vitale family moved in. Yes, she said. It's okay. They talked through dinner, really talked, about everything they'd been too afraid to say before. Domenico told her about Sarah, about how she'd left when the pressure got too intense, how he'd convinced himself he was better off alone. I thought I was protecting people by keeping them at a distance, he admitted. But really, I was protecting myself. From the pain of losing someone again. And now? Now I'm choosing to be terrified. He smiled slightly. Because you're worth the risk. After dinner, walking through the neighborhood with his hand in hers, Julia felt something shift. The fear was still there, the awareness of the world she was entering. But it was balanced by certainty. This was right. He was right. I need to tell you something, Domenico said as they walked. About Sunday dinner. What about it? Mama called me yesterday. She said I'm welcome back, but only if I bring you. She wants to see us together, wants the family to see us together. He stopped walking. It's going to be uncomfortable. Matteo will be there. With Sophia? Yes, they've been seeing each other. It's new, but he seems happier. Domenico's expression was serious. But Julia, showing up together in front of everyone, that's a statement. It's public. It's permanent. I know. Are you sure you're ready for that? She thought about Matteo, about the hurt she'd caused, about the messy family dynamic she was walking into. No, she admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. That night, Carmela called. Domenico came to the house today, she said without preamble. First time in 2 weeks. He looked terrible. I know. He thinks he's protecting you by pulling away. Thinks if you're not clearly with him, the Rossi family won't target you. That's ridiculous. That's my son. Carmela sighed. Julia, I was angry. About Matteo, about the situation. But I've watched Domenico for 37 years. I've seen him sacrifice everything for responsibility. And then you came along, and for the first time, he wanted something for himself. That scared him. What do I do? You fight for him. Because he won't fight for himself. He'll convince himself you deserve better, safer, easier. You need to show him that's not your choice to make. How? However you can. Carmela paused. Sunday dinner. Come, Domenico will be there, so will Matteo. It will be uncomfortable, but you need to show up, for Domenico. Will Matteo be okay with that? Matteo is dating again. A nice girl, teacher, he's healing. But Domenico needs to see that you're choosing him, publicly, in front of the family. Sunday arrived with anxiety sitting heavy in Giulia's chest. She changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple dress. Nothing too formal. Nothing that screamed, I'm trying too hard. Domenico picked her up at 2, and the drive to Bay Ridge felt longer than usual. You okay? He asked, glancing at her. Nervous. Me too. You're never nervous. I'm nervous about this. He reached over, laced his fingers through hers. About putting you in an uncomfortable situation. About whether my family will... They'll be fine, Giulia said, with more confidence than she felt. But when they walked into the house together, hand in hand, the room went quiet. Carmela appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked at their joined hands, at Giulia's nervous expression, at Domenico's protective stance. Then she smiled, warm and genuine, and pulled Giulia into a hug. About time you made an honest decision, she said, pulling back to cup Giulia's face. Welcome, Bambina. Really welcome. The tension broke. Lucia appeared with the toddler, who shrieked with joy at seeing Domenico. Uncle Giovanni clapped him on the shoulder. Aunt Francesca asked pointed questions about their plans, and then Matteo walked in with Sofia. Everyone went quiet again. Matteo saw them standing together, Domenico's arm around Giulia's waist. His expression flickered, pain and acceptance warring, before settling on something like resignation. Sofia touched his arm gently. He took a breath. Nico, he said. Giulia. Matteo. Domenico's voice was careful. I know what it is. Matteo moved into the room, Sofia beside him. Sofia, this is my brother Domenico, and his, Giulia. Nice to meet you both, Sofia said warmly, without a hint of awkwardness. Matteo's told me a lot about the family. The moment hung there, fragile, until Salvatore's voice boomed from the kitchen. Are we eating or conducting therapy? Food's ready. Dinner was strange. Not uncomfortable exactly, but weighted with awareness. Matteo and Sofia sat at one end of the table, talking with Lucia about teaching. Domenico and Giulia sat at the other, fielding questions from the aunts and uncles about how they got together. It just happened, Giulia said for the 3rd time, smiling through the interrogation. Things don't just happen, Aunt Francesca said. Someone makes a move. Who made the move? He did, Giulia admitted, glancing at Domenico. Of course he did. Domenico never does anything halfway. Aunt Francesca sipped her wine. Matteo's more cautious, sometimes too cautious. Across the table, Matteo's jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't engage. After dinner, Matteo found Giulia helping clear plates in the dining room. Can I talk to you for a second? His voice was quiet, careful. They stepped into the empty hallway, voices from the kitchen muffled behind closed doors. I just wanted to say, he started, then stopped. Sofia's been good for me, really good. She's patient. She doesn't make me feel like I'm competing with anyone. I'm happy for you, Matteo, truly. I know you are, and I'm getting there, with you and Nico. He managed a small smile. It still stings sometimes, but I can see how he looks at you, how you look at him. That's real. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. He glanced back toward the kitchen. I should go. Sofia's probably wondering where I went. He left, and Giulia stood in the hallway feeling like something had finally, truly shifted. Inside, Carmela had cornered Domenico in the kitchen. "You're serious about this girl?" she asked in Italian, but Giulia heard through the doorway. "Yes, Mama." "No more running? No more pushing people away?" "I'm trying. Try harder. She chose you over the easy brother. Don't make her regret it." "I won't." "Good." Carmela switched to English as Giulia entered. "Ah, there you are. Come, sit. I want to talk to you." Domenico made a move to stay, but Carmela waved him away. "Go. Help your father. Women's talk now." When they were alone, Carmela took Giulia's hands. "My son, he's a good man, but he's been alone a long time. By choice, yes, but also by fear. He pushes people away before they can leave him." She squeezed Giulia's hands. You broke through. I see how he looks at you, like you're the only person in the room." "Mrs. Vitale, Carmela, you're family now." She smiled. "But Giulia, being with Domenico means being part of this family. All of it. The loud dinners, the complex history, the business we don't talk about but everyone knows exists. Can you handle that?" "I think so." "You think so or you know so?" Giulia met her eyes. "I know so." "Good." Carmela released her hands. "Then you need to learn to make proper pasta. Wednesday afternoons. My kitchen. Don't be late." It wasn't a request. 2 weeks later, Giulia attended her first Wednesday cooking lesson. Carmela taught her how to make pasta dough from scratch, critiquing her technique with the precision of a drill sergeant. No, not like that. Gentle. The dough should feel like a baby's skin." "I've never touched a baby's skin." "Then we have work to do." By the end of the afternoon, Giulia's arms ached, and her kitchen skills had been thoroughly evaluated and found wanting. But Carmela hugged her at the door and said, "Next week, we make sauce." Life settled into a new rhythm. Sunday dinners with the family, Wednesday lessons with Carmela, evenings at Domenico's penthouse with Bianco and Nero, who had fully claimed the space as their own. The cats had accepted Domenico as their primary servant, demanding food at odd hours and leaving fur on his expensive furniture. "They're tyrants," he complained, watching Nero knock his phone off the counter. "They're cats. It's literally their job description. I don't remember agreeing to this level of chaos." "You agreed when you asked me to move in." Giulia picked up Nero, who purred despite his criminal behavior. "They're a package deal." "I know." Domenico pulled her close, Nero trapped between them. "Best deal I ever made." 3 months after that awkward first Sunday dinner together, Domenico told her he needed to attend a family business meeting. "You don't have to come," he said. "It's just logistics. Boring." "I want to come. Giulia, you promised. No more pushing me away. If this is part of your life, I want to understand it." The meeting was held in a private room at one of the family's restaurants. Salvatore sat at the head of the table, Domenico beside him. Several men Giulia didn't recognize filled the other seats, all in expensive suits, all watching her with curiosity. "This is Giulia," Domenico said simply. "She's with me." No one questioned it. The meeting itself was less dramatic than Giulia expected. They discussed shipment schedules, warehouse logistics, distribution routes. It was business, handled with the same professional efficiency as any corporate meeting. The only difference was the underlying awareness that these were men who operated in gray areas, where rules were flexible and consequences could be severe. After the meeting, Salvatore pulled her aside. "You didn't look scared," he observed. "Should I have been?" "Most people are. Their first time seeing how we actually operate." He studied her. "But you sat there like you belonged. That's good. It means you understand." "Understand what?" "That we're not monsters. We're businessmen who operate outside traditional systems, but we still have rules, honor, family." He patted her shoulder. "You're good for Domenico. You make him remember he's human, not just a problem solver." That night, At home with Domenico, Giulia asked the question she'd been holding. "Are you happy?" He looked up from his laptop, surprised. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one. Are you happy? With us? With this life?" Domenico closed the laptop, giving her his full attention. "I didn't think I could be. After Sarah left, after years of putting work first, I convinced myself happiness was something other people got. Not me. And now? Now I come home to you and those damn cats, and I can't believe this is real." He pulled her into his lap. "So yes, I'm happy. Terrifyingly happy. Terrifying? Because now I have something to lose. That's the scary part. You're not going to lose me. Promise?" "Promise." He kissed her, and Nero jumped onto the couch to complain about being neglected. Bianco followed, because wherever Nero went, chaos followed. 4 months after that first Sunday dinner together, Domenico asked her to come to family dinner early. "Why?" Giulia asked. "Because I need to do something, and I want to do it right." When they arrived, the family was already gathering. Domenico seemed nervous, which was so unlike him that Giulia's stomach flipped. "What's going on?" "You'll see." When everyone was seated, Domenico stood. All conversation ceased. "I need to say something," he started, and Giulia's heart began to pound. He pulled Giulia to her feet, and she realized her hands were shaking. "Most of you know by now that Giulia and I are together," Domenico said, his voice steady despite the weight of what he was doing. "What you don't know is that this isn't casual for me. This isn't temporary." The table was absolutely silent. Even the toddler had stopped babbling. "She's mine," Domenico continued, looking at each family member in turn. "And I'm claiming that in front of all of you, because family is witness to what matters most. Because in our world, public declarations mean something. They're promises." Carmela's eyes filled with tears. Salvatore nodded slowly, a smile tugging at his mouth. "I'm not asking her to marry me," Domenico said. "Not yet. We're not there yet. But I'm asking her to be my partner, officially, in front of everyone who matters. I'm asking her to share my life, my family, my world." He turned to Giulia, and his expression softened in a way she'd never seen. "And I'm promising to make sure you never regret choosing the complicated brother. The one with the baggage and the responsibilities and the tendency to work too much. I'm promising to try to be worthy of that choice every single day." Giulia's vision blurred with tears. "Yes." The table erupted. Carmela was sobbing, Lucia was cheering, the aunts were already planning celebrations. Salvatore raised his glass high. "To Domenico and Giulia," he declared. "May they have many years of happiness, and may Domenico finally learn to relax." Everyone laughed, raising their glasses, except Matteo, who sat quietly, Sophia's hand in his. Then he stood, glass raised. "To my brother," he said, voice steady, who finally found someone stubborn enough to handle him. It wasn't quite forgiveness, but it was acceptance. It was a blessing, in its own tangled way. "And to Giulia," Matteo continued, meeting her eyes, "who made the right choice, even if it hurt like hell for me to admit it." The table raised their glasses again, and Giulia felt the last piece of tension dissolve. After dinner, Matteo found her in the kitchen where she was helping Carmela with dishes. "Can we talk?" he asked. Outside? On the back porch, under the stars, Matteo was quiet for a long moment. "I meant what I said in there," he finally spoke. "You made the right choice. It took me a while to see it, but you did." "Matteo, I'm okay, Giulia, really okay. Sophia's, she's good for me, patient. She doesn't look at me like I'm competing with anyone. She just sees me. I'm glad. And I'm glad for you too. Nico's, he's impossible sometimes. But he loves you. Really loves you. I can see it. Matteo smiled slightly. Just promise me you'll keep him humble. Someone needs to. I'll do my best. Good. He pulled her into a brief hug. Take care of him, Giulia. He acts tough, but he's not as strong as he pretends. I know. When she went back inside, Domenico was waiting in the hallway. What did he say? That I should keep you humble. Good luck with that. She laughed, and he pulled her close, kissing her temple. Thank you. For what? For choosing me, for standing in front of my family and saying yes, for not running when it got complicated. Where would I run? You have cats at your place now. Bianco and Nero would never forgive me. The cats are definitely in charge. As they should be. They drove home in comfortable silence, hands linked over the console. At the penthouse, Bianco and Nero greeted them with typical feline indignation at being left alone for hours. They need therapy, Domenico said, watching Nero swat his coffee mug closer to the edge of the table. They need attention. Giulia scooped up Bianco, who purred immediately. See? Drama kings. That night, curled up on the couch with cats sprawled across them and the city lights glittering beyond the windows, Giulia felt something profound settle into place. Tell me something, she said. That first Sunday, when you walked into that dining room and saw me, what did you think? Domenico was quiet for a moment. I thought I was in trouble. Why? Because I looked at you and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Want. Need. The certainty that my life had just changed completely. He pressed a kiss to her hair. And I was right. About what? That you'd change everything. That nothing would be the same. That I'd finally found someone worth the risk. Was I worth it? Every single complication. Every single moment. Giulia tilted her head to kiss him, and Nero complained loudly about being squished. Bianco, always the peacemaker, jumped down to give them space. I love you, she said, the words easy and true. I love you too, cara mia. My dear. Mine. Wrong brother, remember? Best mistake you ever made. Best decision, she corrected. There's a difference. He smiled and she felt it against her lips. Best decision, then. Outside, the city hummed with life and possibility. Inside, surrounded by judgmental cats, and the man who'd been worth every difficult moment, Giulia finally understood what home felt like. It felt like this. Like Sunday dinners and Wednesday cooking lessons. Like patient acceptance from a hurt brother and enthusiastic approval from a matriarch who'd decided Giulia was family. Like cats who'd claimed a penthouse as their kingdom, and a man who'd learned to let someone in. It felt like choosing the harder path, and finding out it was exactly right. If you enjoyed Giulia and Domenico's story, subscribe to Mafia Tales for more dangerous romances, where powerful men meet their match. New stories every week. Want exclusive extended epilogues and bonus scenes? Join the Mafia Tales Club. You'll get early access to new stories and behind-the-scenes content you won't find anywhere else.